Well, let's get more insight from PierreGuerlain. He's a professor of political science at Paris West University, joining us live now from the sunny French capital. Now, if Nicolas Sarkozy loses, he'll be the first president in 30 years not to be re-elected. So if he doesn't win, what would have sealed his fate?
Well, now it looks very likely that he's going to lose. The reasons are multiple. First, as a person who was extremely arrogant, he was perceived as the president of the rich, precisely at a time when there's a crisis. And also, he doesn't have a very clear political line. He says one thing one day, the opposite the next day. One day is very pro-European, the next day wants to establish controls at European borders. One day he's very close to Merkel in Germany, and the next day is critical. So lack of consistency, arrogance, and also incompetence, because he's not been able to do very much about the crisis, which is something very difficult. But his personal characteristics, I think, antagonized a lot of people. And the socialist candidate who's very likely to win campaigned as a so-called normal candidate, but a lot of people are voting for him also because they don't want Sarkozy. So part of the vote is very much a passionate anti-Sarkozy vote for personal reasons.
All right, well, you mentioned the economy.
The guy was even vulgar. Not very good at, speaking the French language. So personal characteristics are really the main cause of his downfall, I would say.
You mentioned the economy obviously is one major factor in this election. Do you think Hollande is the man to bring any form of recovery to France? After all, he is advocating growth rather than austerity, which, of course, Nicolas Sarkozy has been pursuing.
Well, actually, Sarkozy changed his line. In January, he was saying one thing, and now he's saying something else. The president, whoever he is, and it's likely to be Hollande, will have to face the market and will have to face a very tough situation. It's not really a matter of who's there. But, if there's a crisis in France which looks a bit like the crisis in Greece, there will be demonstrations. And then France being such a big economy within Europe, that will make a big difference. So Hollande by himself cannot change things, but if there's pressure from demonstrations, and also even in countries that voted for the right, like Spain, a lot of people are angry with the political and economic situation. So it could be the beginning of a movement, not initiated by Hollande himself, but by people who want to change and demonstrating for it and pushing Hollande to move towards that direction. But Hollande by himself cannot change the whole system. But if he's supported not only by a majority of the public in France, but also by other people in other countries in southern Europe, it may make a difference.
What about immigration, just finally? That, of course, has been a very strong sentiment in all the campaigns. Was that just to lure voters, to connect with voters, or is that really a problem there in France at the moment, and will it be addressed?
Well, I think you have one candidate, the candidate to the National Front, who apparently is going to poll around 15-16%, and she's played the anti-immigrant card. So obviously there's a large segment of the French population who try to understand the crisis in ethnic or immigration terms. From my point of view, they don't understand that there is a systemic crisis and that immigration is one part of this systemic crisis. But immigration doesn't cause the economic crisis. It becomes such a problem because a lot of people want to simplify everything, and therefore they resort to what was so common in the 1930s, blaming a group of immigrants. The group is now different from the one it was in the 1930s. So she's playing politics with this. She has a kind of left-wing rhetoric in terms of economics and a totally right-wing anti-immigrant rhetoric in terms of immigration. But she only polled 16%, and the Front Gauche candidate is very close to that. So it should be interesting because immigration has not become the core issue of the whole campaign.
PierreGuerlain, great to hear your thoughts. Thank you for joining us live there in Paris.